A woman named Jess is at home with her young son, Tommy. He's autistic and clearly upset. Jess hugs him tightly, trying to calm him. She tells him that he just had a nightmare. As she rushes to prepare for a planned trip, she wipes spilled paint from the floor and looks visibly overwhelmed. In the background, Tommy paints quietly. While tidying up, Jess hears the doorbell ring. She answers the door, but finds no one there. She looks around, confused. Her behavior grows more frantic as she changes clothes and readies herself to leave. She assures Tommy that the floor is clean and everything is fine. Jess soon drives away, but Tommy is no longer with her. Elsewhere, at Triangle Harbor, Greg waits beside his sailboat. He's expecting his friends to arrive for a day out on the water. The first to show up are Sally and her husband Downey. Sally brings a friend named Heather, who Greg hasn't met before. They greet one another warmly and begin to prep the boat. Jess eventually arrives, but not alone. She comes with a young man named Victor. However, her son Tommy is still not with her. Victor quietly mentions to Greg that something seems off about Jess. She hugs Greg and apologizes for being late. She says she's tired, but still wants to go on the trip. As they get the sailboat ready, Greg asks Jess where Tommy is. She answers vaguely, saying he's in school. Victor looks at her strangely. It's a Saturday. School wouldn't be in session. The boat sets sail. Jess tries to relax and soon falls asleep in the cabin. She dreams of being on a beach, but when she wakes, she can't remember the details. Heather asks about the dream, but Jess says it's already gone from her mind. Up on deck, the others are enjoying the sail, but Jess seems distant. When Greg again brings up Tommy, Jess responds that he's fine. She says that every day is the same. The weather suddenly changes. The wind dies, and the boat stalls in place. They see storm clouds forming rapidly. Greg radios for help. The Coast Guard replies, saying no unusual weather has been reported in the area. Then, the radio emits a strange signal. A woman's voice cuts in, distressed and panicking. She says someone is killing everyone. Before she can give a location, the signal cuts out. Static fills the radio. The storm hits hard and fast. Greg yells for everyone to put on life jackets. Wind and waves tear through the boat. Victor and Greg try to regain control while the others take shelter. Heather is thrown from the boat and disappears into the sea. The rest of the group hangs on as the boat capsizes. When a storm passes, they climb on top of the overturned hull. There's no sign of Heather. No one knows what happened to her. Sometime later, the group spots a massive ocean liner approaching. Jess looks uneasy, but the others are hopeful. They wave and shout. On the deck of the liner, they see the silhouette of a person. The ship slows down beside them. They climb aboard. The liner's name is Aeolus. As they enter, it appears completely abandoned. No crew, no passengers, and no sound. Greg suggests go to the bridge to find the captain. Jess looks around the corridor and says it feels familiar, like she's been here before. Greg tells her it's probably just the design. Most ships look alike. The rest of the group tries to stay optimistic, but Jess looks more anxious with every step. As they explore, they find an old black and white photograph framed on the wall. It's a picture of the same ship, dated 1932. Downey explains that Aeolus is the name of the Greek god of the wind, the father of Sisyphus, who was punished to repeat the same task for eternity. Suddenly, they hear clanking sounds echoing from down a corridor. They stop moving. Jess notices a set of keys on the floor. When she picks them up, her expression changes. They're identical to her own. The same keychain, the same house keys, and a tiny photo of Tommy. The others are stunned. Downey and Sally think maybe Heather found the ship and dropped the keys. Jess doesn't answer. They move toward the ship's ballroom. It's completely set up as if for a party. Tables are laid out. Food is freshly prepared, yet the ship is silent. Sally begins shouting for Heather. Jess sees a figure dash through the hallway. She tells the others. Victor runs off to investigate, chasing the unknown person. Greg follows him, and Jess tags along. Jess tells Greg that everything feels like it's happened before. Every hallway, every turn, it's all familiar. Greg again says she's in shock. Then they hear water running nearby and follow the sound. Inside a room, they find a mirror with a message smeared in blood. It says, "Go to theater." Meanwhile, Victor is still chasing the person Jess saw. The sounds of metal clanking continue through the corridors. Back in the cabin, Jess becomes more disturbed. She tells Greg that something is seriously wrong. He brushes it off and suggests the ship's crew might be playing a prank. They argue. Jess walks away. She returns to the ballroom, but Sally and Downey are gone. The food is now rotting. Elsewhere, Sally and Downey follow a trail of blood that leads them through the ship and eventually toward the theater. Jess hears heavy footsteps and hides. Victor appears, but he's covered in blood. He doesn't speak. Instead, he lunges at her and begins to strangle her. She fights back, struggling to breathe. She manages to find a wound at the back of his head and presses on it. Victor collapses. A loud gunshot echoes nearby. Jess runs toward the sound. She finds Sally and Downey weeping beside Greg's body. He's been shot. Sally turns to Jess and accuses her of doing it. Jess denies it. Sally insists that Greg said Jess shot him. Downey asks why she told them to come to the theater. Jess says she didn't. Suddenly, gunshots ring out again, this time from the theater's balcony. Sally and Downey are hit and fall to the ground. Jess flees. She hides in the ship's kitchen and grabs a large knife. She crouches behind a counter as the shooter enters. They wear a burlap sack over their head. Jess stays silent. The shooter eventually leaves. Jess creeps out and runs toward the lifeboat deck. The masked shooter appears again and aims at her. Jess fights back, knocking the weapon away. She manages to get the upper hand and throws the attacker off the ship. As the figure falls, she mutters something to Jess. "You have to kill them. It's the only way to go home." Jess stares out at the sea, shaken. Then she hears a sound nearby. Music is playing, an old record player looping the same song. Jess walks into the cabin. The music continues. She flips the record, and a new song begins. She hears shouting from the upper deck. When she looks over the railing, she sees something impossible. Down below, the overturned sailboat floats toward the liner. The same people are there: Greg, Sally, Downey, Victor, and another version of herself. Jess backs away from the railing in shock. She watches silently as the group boards the ship, the same group she arrived with earlier, including herself. Everything is happening exactly the same way. They call out, board the ship, and begin exploring the corridors. Jess stays hidden, watching it all unfold again. She listens to them talk about déjà vu, the ship's age, and the strange name Aeolus. She watches her other self respond to Greg's questions with the same words she used earlier. Jess realizes that she is now a part of the past, watching it repeat from a different angle. As they move deeper into the ship, Jess notices that her keys are no longer in her pocket. She remembers dropping them during her escape. Now, she sees the second version of herself picking up the same keys and reacting just as she did. The loop is real. The events are repeating exactly. Victor hears a noise and runs after it. Jess now realizes he's chasing her. In the earlier loop, they were all looking for Heather. But now, Jess knows that she herself was the person they saw running in the corridor. She was mistaken for Heather. Victor chases her again, confused about what's happening. Jess leads him away from the others, trying to explain the truth. She tells him that she's not the same Jess he saw boarding the ship. She says the others are walking straight into danger and that she's already seen him die once. Victor doesn't believe her. He thinks she's confused or lying. Jess becomes frantic. She begs him to believe her. In a moment of panic, she pushes him. Victor's head slams into a metal hook on the wall. He goes still. Blood drips from the wound. Jess gasps and stumbles away, horrified by what she's done. She walks through the ship, disoriented and trembling. She finds herself in the crew locker room. She opens one locker after another. Inside, she sees identical overalls, the kind the shooter was wearing. Nearby, she finds a stack of shotguns and a pile of crumpled paper notes. Every note says the same thing: if they board, kill them all. The handwriting is hers. Jess sinks to the floor. She realizes now that this isn't the first time she's been here. It's not even the second or third. The events have repeated many times. She remembers what the shooter said before she fell overboard, that killing everyone is the only way home. As she looks down, something catches her eye. Her locket, the one with Tommy's picture, slips from her neck and falls through a floor grate. Jess kneels and looks into the grate. Below, she sees dozens of identical lockets lying in a pile. Each one is hers. Each one is from a different loop. Jess finally understands the terrifying truth. She's been here many times before. Each time, everything happens the same way. And each time, it ends in death. Desperate to change the pattern, Jess grabs a shotgun, loads it, and sets off. She is no longer trying to escape. She wants to break the loop. She finds Victor wandering the corridors. She aims her gun at him, but tries to reassure him. She says she knows how everything ends and promises to fix it. Victor is confused, but doesn't fight back. She lets him go. Moments later, Jess watches herself walk into the ballroom. She follows behind, staying hidden. She doesn't want to repeat the same mistake. Instead of letting Victor attack her double, Jess intervenes and speaks to him again. Victor is shocked to see two versions of Jess in front of him. He doesn't understand, but he starts to believe something unnatural is happening. Jess explains that they've all been through this already. She tries to show him what's happening, but before she can continue, they hear gunfire. Jess remembers what's coming. Sally and Downey are standing over Greg's body in the theater. In the last loop, they were both shot. This time, Jess gets there first. She pushes them away just as the gunshots start. The bullets miss. For the first time, she manages to prevent one part of the loop from repeating exactly. She urges Sally and Downey to come with her. They don't fully understand, but they follow. Jess tells them that this has all happened before. Every moment, every death. She believes they can stop it. They just have to do something different. Sally and Downey are skeptical, but frightened. Jess gives them a shotgun and leaves them in a safe place. She promises to return after checking on Victor. When she reaches the ballroom again, Victor is gone. She finds a trail of blood leading toward the deck. It suggests he may have fallen overboard. Suddenly, she hears gunfire down the corridor. She runs toward it and finds Sally and Downey confronting another masked figure, another shooter. They fire at the figure and hit them. When they pull off the mask, they find something horrifying. It's Jess, another version of her. Her face is bloody and her eyes are wild. The shooter, Jess, says she's trying to help. She tells them that Victor fell into the sea and that they need to follow her if they want to survive. Sally and Downey are terrified and confused. They go with her, not realizing the danger. The original Jess runs after them, screaming for them to stop, but they're already gone. Inside a locked room, the shooter Jess turns on them. She stabs Downey first. Sally fights back and escapes, bloodied and limping. She runs into the lower levels of the ship. Jess chases after Sally, trying to catch her and explain that she isn't the one who attacked, but Sally doesn't listen. She's terrified and bleeding. Sally hides in the engine room. There, she finds an old radio panel. Desperate and shaking, she sends out a distress call. Her voice is the same one that Greg heard earlier on the sailboat, the woman begging for help. As she leaves the control room, the broadcast loops in the background. Greg's voice plays faintly through the speakers, confirming that the timeline is repeating itself. Sally makes her way to the upper deck. There, Jess finds her, but what she sees stops her in her tracks. The deck is littered with corpses. Dozens of all of them are Sally. Each body lies in a slightly different position. Each one is a previous version of her. All of them tried to escape. All of them died here. Jess kneels beside the wounded Sally, who is still alive, but barely. She tries to comfort her and promises that she isn't the same person who attacked her. But it's too late. Sally dies in her arms. Jess hears a commotion nearby. She turns and sees the newest version of herself fighting the shooter version of Jess, the same masked figure from before. The newest Jess overpowers the attacker and throws her overboard. The loop has restarted again. Jess walks to the railing and looks out at the sea. The overturned sailboat is floating nearby once more. On her, Greg, Sally, Downey, Victor, and another Jess shouting for help. Jess watches silently as the newest group boards the Aeolus. The same events are unfolding again. She now understands the full scope of what's happened. Every time all members of the group die, the boat returns. The cycle resets. A new version of her and the others arrives, unaware they've done it before. She runs below deck, determined to end. She climbs down to the engine room, searching for a way to stop the ship from getting too far from the overturned sailboat. But it's no use. The ship continues its course. Back on deck, she witnesses a version of herself in an earlier timeline accidentally kill Victor by slamming his head into a wall hook. Everything continues as before. Jess walks into the bedroom where Downey was stabbed. She finds his body still there, lying in a pool of blood in the bathroom. Knowing what has to happen next, she smears Downey's blood across the mirror, writing the message, "Go to theater." She drags his body, along with Greg's, and dumps them both overboard, just as she had seen in earlier loops. She checks her pocket. The shotgun is loaded. The mask and overalls are ready. Jess disguises herself once more as the shooter. She knows what role she must play. If she wants to reset the loop again, or possibly change it, she has to become the figure she once feared. Now fully dressed in the mask and uniform, Jess hides in position. She listens as the newest version of herself walks away from Greg after their argument. She follows behind her double, just as she did before. Greg heads to the balcony of the theater. Jess raises her shotgun and takes aim. Greg turns around slowly. As he stares at the masked figure, he recognizes her eyes. He knows it's Jess. Before he can speak, she shoots him. Sally and Downey arrive at the scene. They panic. Jess, still in her disguise, doesn't hesitate. She fires again, hitting both of them. The new Jess walks in and sees Greg's body. She reacts in horror, just like before. Jess lowers her weapon slightly. She watches as the cycle continues. But something is different this time. Jess begins to cry behind her mask. She apologizes to them all, Greg, Sally, Downey, and especially her other self. She says she's trying to fix it, trying to break the pattern. But the loop demands that everyone must die. The new Jess flees the theater. Masked Jess chases her, just as the shooter did in the very first loop. The roles have reversed. The original Jess is now the one hunting. They reach the upper deck. A brutal fight breaks out between the two versions of Jess. Fists fly. One of them gets the upper hand, grabbing a weapon. The other counters, slamming her into a rail. The fight ends the same way as before. The masked Jess is thrown overboard. As she falls, she shouts out one final instruction: kill them all. Don't let them board. Jess crashes into the ocean and sinks beneath the surface. Moments later, she wakes up on a beach. It's the same beach from her dream on the sailboat. She lies on the sand, soaked and shaken. The water laps against the shore. The sun is up. It's morning. Jess gets to her feet and walks through the familiar streets. Eventually, she reaches her house. She peeks in through the window. Inside, she sees another version of herself. This Jess is yelling at Tommy, furious about the pain he spilled. She grabs him roughly, hitting him. Tommy begins to cry. Jess watches from outside, horrified. She sees herself, the person she used to be, angry and exhausted. She finally understands that this is where it all began. To distract her double, Jess rings the doorbell. Inside, the other Jess answers the door, finds no one, and returns to the kitchen. Jess moves around to the shed and grabs a hammer. She slips quietly back into the house. Then, without warning, she strikes. She hits her double in the head with the hammer. The body collapses. Jess breathes heavily, then notices Tommy standing nearby, frozen with fear. He has seen everything. Jess kneels and hugs him tight, whispering that it was just a nightmare. She drags the body, wraps it in a bag, and loads it into the trunk of her car. She retrieves the locket from the corpse and places it back around her own neck. Jess puts Tommy in the car and drives away. She tells him that everything will be different now. She promises she will never hurt him again. As they drive along the coast, a seagull crashes into the windshield. Jess pulls over and gets out to remove it. She carries the bird to the edge of the embankment. When she looks down to drop it into the water, she freezes. There is not one dead seagull. There are many, a pile of identical dead birds lying in the exact same place. Jess realizes the truth. She's still in the loop. She rushes back to the car, panicked. Tommy is crying again. Jess tries to calm him. She glances down at the windshield, smeared with blood. An oncoming truck barrels toward them. She swerves into traffic. The aftermath of the crash is quiet and grim. Bystanders gather around the wreckage. A body lies near the vehicle, bloodied and still. It's Jess, the version she killed and stuffed into the trunk. Nearby, the body of Tommy is visible as well. He didn't survive. A few meters away, another Jess stands on the sidewalk, completely unharmed. She's observing the crash, silent. It's the version of Jess that just lived through the events again. The one who tried to change things. The one who believed she could finally bring her son home safe. A taxi pulls up beside her. The driver steps out and looks at the scene. Calmly, he tells her there's nothing that can be done now. Nothing will bring the boy back. Jess looks at the driver. She doesn't respond right away. Then, she quietly asks him for a ride. She wants to go to Triangle Harbor. The driver nods and opens the door. She climbs into the back seat. Her clothes are damp. Her expression is blank. She stares out the window in silence. Her hands rest on her lap. The locket around her neck is still there. As the taxi drives through the streets, Jess closes her eyes and drifts off to sleep. When she wakes up, she's at the harbor. Greg is waiting at the dock beside his sailboat. Sally and Downey are there too. Victor stands nearby, talking with Heather. They're getting ready for the day's trip. Everything is exactly as it was before. Jess steps out of the cab and walks slowly toward them. Her movements are mechanical, as if she's unsure whether any of this is real. Victor greets her. He asks where Tommy is. Jess pauses before answering. Then she says the same words she used before. He's in school. Greg comes forward and hugs her. Jess apologizes again. She says she's just tired. She boards the boat. The sun is shining. The group sets sail. The loop begins again.